A lot already said on storage, so I won't say a whole lot more. You can just find your own numbers on how rapidly costs are decreasing.
Can I just ask one more question about electric vehicles?
Yeah.
That most of the talk about electric vehicles has to do with sort of a residential or a non-commercial application, where there isn't very much electric vehicle in terms of commercial vehicles. Like I understand Tesla came out with a semi-truck that could run, but the generation part of it was so, takes a significant part of the payload of the truck. It was like 20,000 pounds of the payload was going to be, of an 80,000 pound deal, was going to be the generation system that may make the thing move. And also in terms of like ranchers and stuff like that, to be able to haul, you know, cattle and horses and things like that. That technology isn't really so applicable right now.
Right. I mean, I happen to own a diesel truck too, when I'm hauling horses or something. So I think that'll be the case for quite a while. There's that split world.
I would say it is coming. You know, I'm actually working on a project in California where their last bastion of real carbon emissions is transportation. And we're working on a heavy duty vehicle, looking at all kinds of alternate fuels, including electric, hydrogen.
Yeah, because the last thing I heard was that the F-150 pickup truck is the most popular vehicle in America.
Yeah, and when Ford decides to make it electric, that'll be a big deal. We'll see. So anyway, so let me not use up more than about 5 more minutes so I can give time back here to Dan. But there's stuff in here about battery costs coming down dramatically. Part of it is that the EV thing is driving down the cost of batteries because of the scale of development that's going on there. You look at the size of gigafactories and things that are happening in Nevada and China and so on. So I think they work synergistically to drive down the cost of batteries and for home usage becoming much more likely and available. So that's what these slides give, different numbers that I found from NREL and LPEA and others on cost of batteries. GM says that cost of that battery has gone from about $1,000 to about $150 in that car per kilowatt hour storage. Right, so those cost curves come down pretty dramatically and impact both the cars and the likelihood of home use. Where storage comes to bear here at LPEA and batteries and so forth, you can read about grid applications and home applications, and the better benefit is usually the closer you get to the consumer and closer to home. So home applications are more likely to be the thing we see first with respect to batteries. Although I know Dan and Ron look every time there's a chance, there's a need to upgrade a long line, there's always the opportunity to consider batteries as a replacement for upgrades to transmission lines or to service lines, because at some point or other it's going to be cheaper, and so we'll see about getting there. I highlight on the bottom line there, I think storage ought to be a standalone element in our strategic plan. It's kind of built into new technology, and I think Dan and Ron maybe agree that we're going to pull that out and highlight that as something we watch and we look for opportunities to apply. So I think this is my last slide. I think we ought to have where with cars we can be a little bit passive and decide whether or not we want to do encouraging of that. I think with storage we have to be proactive and get ahead of the curve. My sense of it is that storage, if it's left to the market for early adopters and wealthy people, they'll gain the advantage and leave the grid. And I think that if we think of storage like ETS heaters and things that we already help people put in their home, there are places out there where you could, you know, Vermont Energy and others, where you could for $15 a month ask to have a Tesla battery put in your house. They then control it. Maybe you have solar, store it there. They get to control when the power goes back on the grid. You get paid something for it, but the utility as a whole benefits. Things like that are out there and available. I think we should be proactive before people who have solar decide to add a battery and decide to go off the grid. Some of the things you'll read say that kind of the war on solar, if you want to call it that utilities and around the nation are somewhat having, is trying to get those rate structures such that it feels fair to all the consumers. And the more you do that, the more it creates, and the battery cost keeps coming down, then this scenario sets up for people, not necessarily leaving the grid, just not using very much of your power. So they're gonna wanna stay hooked into the grid for the big storm. I don't wanna buy the $3,000 generator, but if I have a battery at my house, then I can use that power. When I need yours, I can use it. I can put it back on the grid when you pay me more for it during peak times. And they can do a lot of clever things that are good for them, that aren't necessarily good for the membership as a whole. And I think we have to say that dynamic might start happening, and we should be ahead of that by owning and controlling and leasing those batteries so that they're an asset in the membership as a whole that we use, not just let rich people vacate. Thoughts?
Yeah,
Okay.
no, it's,
And that's some of where you've talked about having
yeah, we've been talking about that for a while.
let's do something with that and start to study that. I've written here also we should have a business case for how batteries can be a revenue stream for LPEA as a leased asset or resource or something, and not just kind of wait and see what happens with it.
Yeah, so I had this conversation with Mike a few years ago about the LPA becoming a storage, using our lines and to become storage for that would outcompete the cost of any sort of storage that would the members would buy on their own. That we can provide storage at a much cheaper cost than purchasing hardware. And part of what needs to be part of what I believe needs to be part of this picture is what is going on with Poudre Valley and United right now with Tri-State, and then trying to compete in that way and being prevented to. So there's another element of all the dynamics that are going on, and I certainly heard an earful when I was up at CREA last month, and have been, and at the Tri-State annual meeting, about Poudre Valley and United are going through and trying to compete and with Excel that borders in Black Hills that borders their territory, which they're not able to compete. And they're trying to do it in this way, but their hands are being tied behind their backs because of Tri-State. So that's another part of the picture. It's like we're looking at the costs, you guys have been looking at the cost, but also what we're facing is our inability to compete. And so that's another part of the picture. And storage makes perfect sense that and there's many examples across the country where distribution utilities who are actively managing and keeping their infrastructure upgraded, where they're actively managing, even where the electrons are going to a specific place, are able to reduce the costs to their members or to their customers. But we have to have the ability to do so. So there's the element of what the difference in costs are with what distribution energy is, and compared to where we're buying our costs, but also is our ability to do so. And if we don't have the ability to do so, that's even more threatening, I believe, than the future costs that we're seeing projected.
So lots of opportunity, lots of things there. I think we can do and have benefit all the members, not just you. As long as you turn it over.